Hi, good morning, and welcome to this morning's session on how to plan and launch a career site. It's our very first Job Train House session of the year, so I'm delighted that so many of you signed up to join us for this morning. It's been a very, very popular session. So we should also be live on LinkedIn, so welcome to our followers on LinkedIn this morning. And looking forward to answering all of your burning questions about all things to do with career sites. Can I just check before I get started that everybody can see and hear me okay? Because we are using a whole new version of our Crowdcast platform for delivering webinars, and we're still finding our way a little bit. So just if you can hear me, let me know and we will start to get started. So when we look at career sites, we're in a really strange market at the moment where there are so many candidates looking for jobs, and it's a real battle for visibility and for attention. And I think that sort of underscores the importance of having and delivering careers content that makes you or enables you to really stand out from the crowd. So some of those areas might be the importance of being able to convey your EVP or employee value proposition, your company's mission, sharing information about culture, work, your organization's values, the environment that you work in, that kind of thing, the benefits and perks of working at your company, and also being able to include things like video content, workplace stories, employee testimonials, all these great things that really help you to stand out from the crowd, but really give the prospective candidate or prospective employee a really good sense of what it's going to be like to work with your organization and why you are so different from all the other jobs that they're probably applying for. So this morning, I'm delighted to be joined by John and Fee from DNA, experts in all things to do with digital marketing, EVP and career sites. We've worked really successfully with them on a number of projects now. And the things we're going to cover today are the value and importance of actually having a career site and content in the first place, how to simply go around planning out that kind of project in the first place and what kind of goals you should be setting, looking at the difference between a fully bespoke all-in career site versus the kind of career site build you might get within an ATS. Job Train has one of these, and we're going to give you a little bit of a showcase and a demo on what that looks like within our own platform. And then how you go about things like content creation, and then finally how to just go about promoting your careers website to prospective candidates. Now, we understand that sometimes there's barriers to people delivering career sites. For all the customers that we have, there's probably only a relatively small percentage that have an established career site. So we're really keen to understand and learn from you today, what are the barriers in order to achieve that? So with that in mind, we've got a poll running. So if you're in Crowdcast on the right-hand side of the chat, you'll see a little graph bit. If you hover over that, there's a poll there, and please do respond within there. You'll also see a little question mark as well, and that's for Q&A. So if you've got any questions at all, we're here to help you. We want this to be a really interactive session this morning. And with that in mind, towards the end, we're going to have a little bit of a breakout session and a surgery, and you can actually come on and join us and then have your questions answered as well. So if you're up for that, please stick up your hand with the option to do that within Crowdcast, and perhaps we'll get a few of you on screen as well to make it a bit more interactive. Okay. So without any further ado, I'm going to invite John, and I'm going to invite Fee as well. Okay. Oh, hi, Leslie.
Hiya.
You are our first guest. Have you got a question for us?
I would put my makeup on if I know to be on screen.
Have you got a question for us, Leslie?
No, I just joined the tab at the bottom, so now I'm just here to listen, really. Just to.
Oh, right, okay. Well, in that case, you've joined us on stage, but if you've got a question later on, then feel free to join us. I'm going to just invite Fiona and John on now. So in the nicest possible way, thanks for joining us, and I'm going to put you back into the chat.
Yeah, if you could, please.
Enjoy the session.
Thank you.
So, as I said, we are using a new version of Crowdcast this morning, so we're probably learning a little bit as we go. So I'm going to invite Fiona on. Fiona, are you there? Hi, Fee, how are you?
Hi, Giles. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I think we still lost John somewhere in the ether, but I think we're trying to get hold of him as we speak. So before John joins us, Fee, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody here, a little bit about DNA, and a little bit about you and what you do as well?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name's Fee, and I'm the Client Strategy and Digital Partner at DNA. So I guess my specialist area is, in fact, career sites and ATS integration. So hopefully I'll be able to help with some of your questions later. DNA are an agency based in Bristol, but we have a nationwide and international client base, and we really specialise in kind of employer branding, building career sites, building ways in which you can engage and attract candidates to your organisation, but also how you engage them once they work with you. Our focus is really on kind of helping people find, keep and engage the staff they need to make their business successful.
Hi, John.
Okay, great. And tell me about some of the clients you've worked with and some of the journeys they've been on. Do they tend to be larger clients, or do they vary a little bit?
Yeah, they really vary, actually. We work with clients like Boohoo Group, who have got 13 different brands like Debenhams and Burton's and Boohoo Man. We work with people like Superdry, All Saints, Halford, Pets at Home. We've built career sites for all of those. We also work with MAN, who are the UK version of Volkswagen, who build kind of trucks and buses and things like that. And we actually integrate with job training for that particular career site. So we don't specialise in one particular industry area. We really are kind of focused across any sector, and really, as it'll come out today, is the goal is really to understand the challenges that clients have and then create a solution that really works for them and attracts the talent that they need.
Brilliant. And in my experience, there is quite a lot of challenge about simply just getting started. I think everybody understands the value of having career site content and all the different areas that I've gone through this morning, just sort of an overview. But I think sometimes getting started is some of the real challenge that faces people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome, John. He got you in the end.
Yes, apologies. I'm fashionably late. Sincere apologies, and thanks to the folks for bearing with while I turned everything off and everything back on again. And that didn't work. So we did everything. Everything had to go off and back on again, and that didn't work either. But God loves a trier, and we did it the third time, and it worked. So apologies, I'm late, everyone. Hi, Fee.
I think I've probably done more sessions with you than anybody else, so I can't believe that you're late.
But bizarrely, I've been into the bowels of the Crowdcast system. It was quite a journey, and I saw the other sessions that we'd run together looking back at me, bizarrely. So
I bet that was scary.
It was a little bit. We both aged pretty well, though, Giles. You'll be pleased to know.
Oh, well, look, thanks for making it. And do you want to give a really quick introduction to you before we get stuck in?
Yeah, by all means, hi, everyone. Welcome to Giles's webinar. My name is John Tarrant. I'm the managing partner of DNA based in Bristol. We help clients find, keep, and engage the staff they need to make their business successful, whether that's locally, whether that's across the UK, or whether that's globally.
Great, super. So, John, where should anybody get started in terms of planning a career site? What's the real benefit? What's the importance of it? Why should people have one? And how do people even think about getting started? We've got some early feedback in the polls, which is really helpful.
Great.
And it seems to me we've got a number of votes in at the moment. So the options I put in just for your benefit is what are the barriers? Is it cost? Is it confidence? Is it content? Is it time? Is it something else? And content seems to be the number one at the moment, followed by cost and something else. And hopefully we'll find out a bit about something else as well.
Yeah. All those are really good points. we've got a bit of time, so I'm sure we'll cover them all. I think, very briefly, it's a really important part of any successful business, and the success of any career site is underpinned by good business processes. Although we produce amazing digital products that set the pulse rating and bring a tear to the eye. The creative and digital teams are fabulous, but success is underpinned by really boring things like structure, discipline, process, research, measurement, stakeholder engagement, not just an amazing bit of video or something amazing on TikTok to drive new traffic to the site. It's underpinned by those boring things. And I think, we're having lots of conversations with people as to why would you do it? This is good business, as I say, it's not a vanity project. And in terms of those why discussions, for some clients, it's a line in the sand moment. They're their current situation is not competitive and they're losing ground on their competitors maybe, or they realise that what's got us to here isn't going to get us to where we need to. A lot of people are rethinking their 3 or 5 year strategy, and they realise that they need certain assets to help them deliver on their talent strategy. For some clients, they've got a new structure. They've acquired businesses globally and therefore need to face off against the talent market in a different way. For some clients, they've developed their EVP and developed their employer brand, and having sort of shaped that message a bit, they've got to now work out how they share that message with the outside world. Where we see problems, we've had to rescue quite a few where people have just sort of sleptwalked into developing a career site, which is never good because, if it's all, it's not an end in itself. It's not a vanity project. This is a means to an end. So we have lots of conversation. The clients want to talk about videos and they want to, do animation. They want to go, and we say, hang on a minute. Let's just stop and pause. What do we want to achieve? So number one, what's the business ROI? Because that's the most important bit. We could probably increase the quality of our hiring, decrease the cost, and ensure a legacy of improvement. And we're a flexible, reasonable bunch, but we've got to have all three. We can't have 2 out of those 3 or 1 out of those 3. So we increase the quality, decrease the cost, and get legacy of improvement. What does that mean? So it could be cost per hire, time to hire, improving their recruitment efficiencies, which is number of candidates in the talent pool, first interview, second interview, offer, accept, start on day 1, still there in 3 months' time, still there in a year's time. So we can nail some of those efficiencies. It might be cutting attrition. So that's number one. What's the business ROI? Some clients go, oh God, we haven't got that data, but I promise you it's in there somewhere. We just need help of a reliable guide to help us find it. The probably after the business ROI, the second one is about being found. Vast majority of candidates will start their search for a new role with a Google search or researching into a company. So that's the second bit we want to achieve. The third bit we want to achieve is about building our reputation. If we want to be seen as a great place to work, we've got to be seen in the first place. We're always going to reject more people than we hire. We probably want people to have a great experience and the good ones to count themselves in. And if they're not quite right for us, they have a good experience but count themselves out. So we spend time with the really good people. And again, we can set good business metrics in that. And then the other thing that clients often forget is sometimes the best internal PR is actually external PR. So what a brilliant opportunity to showcase your people, showcase your passion, showcase your purpose, showcase your personality. And yes, that's going to do wonderful things for you in the outside world, but it's going to do wonderful things for you internally, where people look at the career site, show their friends and family and their network, and get a warm feeling deep inside that actually this place is all right. We're in the right place with the right people at the right time. So it's the first thing we do before we do anything is to set the objectives and what is it we want to achieve, because this is a business process. That's the first bit around the why, I think. And sometimes we have those discussions and people look back at you blankly thinking, oh my God, we're not that far advanced. We're just going to stop and think, what is it we want to achieve out of this before we probably do anything else.
Yes, it's the old adage then, fail to plan, etc., etc. So the planning aspect of it is important. What's the purpose of it? What are the benefits we're expecting to get from it?
Yeah, completely. I mean, we love a cheesy phrase at DNA, Giles, as you know. So plan carefully, execute with flair, measure everything. That tends to be the clarion call on all of the career site stuff. Another one is for life, not just for Christmas. So, once you've produced it, is then a living, breathing thing where you maximise the potential. Everything goes back to the objective. What is this thing supposed to be doing for us? What's it got to deliver for our people? What's it got to deliver for the bottom line? What's it got to deliver for the talent agenda? You go back to the reasons why people do it. They've got a new EVP developing globally, so we want to get the feeling of one team globally, whoever they might be, or we've got a new strategy, or we've got a new structure. So everything has to go back to the objectives.
Okay, so I can imagine that some of that might work and be quite attainable for larger organisations. For some smaller organisations, they may not even have an established EVP and may not even have some access to some of the metrics and that kind of thing. Is that a barrier? Is it going to stop people from launching a career site, or is there a hack or some I don't hate to use the word shortcuts, but there are sort of easy routes through to actually just planning for what we want to launch in terms of the career site, or at least some content. The poll we're running at the moment is saying that at least half the people on this session here are saying that content is, for them, is the main barrier to actually launching a career site.
Yeah, completely. I mean, every client is different, every situation is different. So with some clients who want to do, they want to do a deep dive on all the research, they want to develop an EVP and an employer brand, and take time to invest in something that's genuinely distinct, authentic, and compelling. But others go, we haven't got time, we just need to get on with it, or we haven't got the content, or we don't have the bandwidth. So sometimes it's an employer brand light where they get the benefits, but it's not such a deep dive. And for others, it's campaign themed. So we know we've got a great story to tell. We want to tell it quickly. We might be a smaller organization. It might be quicker to implement. It might be, it certainly be cheaper. But those first baby steps can be pretty important. In terms of the content creation, number one, but it goes back to the objective. What are we trying to achieve? So how do we shape our story? How do we share it? There's, as I mentioned before, we are a flexible bunch, but again, another non-negotiable. Oh, that's twice I've contradicted myself that we're a flexible bunch. But the other non-negotiable is it's got to be distinct, got to be uniquely you. Can't be, there is only one you. It can't be somebody else. It's got to be authentic. So what we're selling on the outside matches the genuine reality on the inside. And it's got to be compelling because it's got to work for us. Whether we're a big organisation, whether we're 50 people, whether we're 250 people, or whether we're 50,000, got to be compelling. So in terms of the content creation, I think number one, it's got to be based on a foundation of fact. So if we haven't got an EVP and an employer brand, we still need to make sure that it's distinct and it's authentic and it's compelling. So from an authenticity point of view, we've got to base it on a foundation of fact. So to understand two things really, what is it we're trying to sell? What is our employment experience? What is it that helps people succeed and stay and thrive in our environment? What are some of those other objectives we want to achieve? And size or resource or time aren't necessarily barriers. They won't stop you doing it, but it helps shape how you approach it. So it's got to be based on a foundation of fact. Second thing is what do candidates want? What do candidates care about? Because nicely, this is a sales exercise. Every touch point with these candidates is an engagement opportunity. Whether they want to join us now, whether they want to join us in 3 or 6 months' time, or actually whether we just want to build our reputation as a great place to work. So what do the candidates care about? First cab off the rank, number one, always purpose. What is the good we do as an organisation? What's the value that we create? The second one is culture. What is it that's different and special about you? What does the shape of my team look like? What does the shape of how you get that stuff done around there, and how you interact with each other, how you interact with your customers? So that's really key. How are your teams made up? How do they work? And a bit more granular, Giles. The job ads. Everybody will have job ads on the site. Make sure they're succinct and compelling. I mean, we've all seen career sites where there's 3 versions of the same job ad. One is the job description that goes over about 58 pages and has been copied and pasted 5 times and badly and has got repetition. We've seen some that are actually pretty good and some which is a one-liner. And you certainly wouldn't apply to the first one or the last one. Present yourselves properly. As a candidate, they just want what they want. And that means professional copy. It means understanding people take on information in different ways. So some photography and some video and some animation. And if you haven't got those things now, that's okay. You can do baby steps and bring them in later. The candidates want to know, so why you and why me and why now? And I think that's the key focus, to put yourself in the candidate's shoes. In addition to stuff being written from the wrong perspective or a poor candidate journey with broken links. The other thing that drives candidates mad is out-of-date information. We're in the process of talking to an organisation at the moment who set themselves up as diversity champions. When you go onto the diversity section of the current career site, it was last updated in January 2021. So why would you let yourself down in that way? So and in terms of generating that content, it's a bit, go back to the objectives. What is it we're trying to sell? What makes it different and special? for us as an employer, what's our employment experience? Who are the people who succeed and stay and thrive? And how do we engage them in the right way, understanding that every touch point is an engagement opportunity.
Okay, that's really helpful.
Whether you're 50 people, 750 or 50,000, it's a similar process.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions for you. First is, brilliant. You had something obscuring your camera a little bit.
Oh, apologies.
See your beautiful face. That's great. Okay. So the first question I've got is, how would somebody go about identifying the essence of the organisation? So let's say, for the sake of argument, this is something that's front of mind at the moment, because we're running a care-specific webinar in a few weeks' time. So if I'm trying to, let's say I'm a care home or a care organisation, I'm looking to recruit carers. Huge problem at the moment. So how do I actually go about understanding the essence of what do our people look like, which people are going to most capture the imagination of the kind of people we want to bring in through the front door, and how do we even get started in terms of producing some content based around that that's going to be attractive and appealing and authentic and all the things that you listed?
Yeah. The discovery process is different for every client, whether size and everything else. So a lot of the information will be already there. You might have engagement surveys, you might have induction surveys, so new starters, that gold dust information. How did you hear of us and why did you join? You might have recruitment efficiency information where people have been offered and not started or declined, so that might be of interest. Focus groups, so you might have engagement survey data as well. And any agency you use, there's lots of good agencies out there, doesn't have to be us, will hopefully use that information and not need to reinvent the wheel. Typically also from a discovery point of view, any agency, but what we do is we'll talk to the senior leaders to understand their perception of the employment experience, talk to the middle ranking, the hiring managers and the squeeze middle to understand what their understanding of the employment experience is. Ask them, what does good they look like? What about a crappy one? Because we all get them. What's the best thing about working here? And if you could go and work anywhere, but you'll be back here next Monday. So what is it that keeps bringing you back?
Yeah.
And it's the job of the facilitator, those focus groups, to draw out really the almost the stem cells that you build their messaging out of. And frankly, out of the mouth of babes, you get gold dust, which you then build the proposition off of. If you add in social media audits, job board audit, probably some collateral audit that they're already doing. We'll often do a competitor review to look at how the competitors are selling themselves, and we'll probably be able to find and understand the niche, somewhere unique, a place that they can call their own in the marketplace, where everybody thinks a care job is just a care job, and if you're a community physio for that organisation, or that one, it's the same. When you get in under the skin, it's almost certainly not, and that's the skill to understand what that essence of that messaging is, and to then project it out into the marketplace.
You touched on a really good point there, in that it's not a bad thing to actually look over the fence and have a look at what your competitors are doing. And in some cases, I imagine they might themselves gone on their own journey and invested quite a lot of time and quite a lot of money in arriving at a career site. So it's not to say that you copy the content on there, but it will give you a guide as to how other people are presenting themselves. And also that probably will identify clearly where you can present a point of difference and something that will stand out in some way.
Yeah.
And I guess in terms of that content, it's going to be based around people or the experience of working in that organisation in some way, whether it be actually just showcasing and showing, the office or the space or the environment, or the people themselves. So how do you normally go about identifying? If we look at the space, is quite easy. You could take beautiful pictures of, let's say, the job train office here, or your beautiful office there, whatever it might be. But in terms of identifying the people and then building some content around them that's going to be engaging, how would you go around that?
I can take it if you like, John.
Go on, Fee. Brilliant.
Well, when we did our career site project with Boohoo Group, it was, for the talent acquisition team, it was quite overwhelming because there were so many stakeholders that they wanted us to engage with, and actually left with them, that would have been incredibly difficult because, as I'm sure all the people on this webinar know, they've all got busy day jobs, and that isn't necessarily it. So actually, yes, we needed help identifying who those stakeholders were, but we did a lot of the heavy lifting by, agreeing a question set so we could gain kind of very consistent information about brands or teams. but then actually did kind of telephone briefs with those managers specifically, and then, gave the talent acquisition people an opportunity to feed into that, because they speak to a lot of candidates. They get a lot of candidate feedback about why they might join or not join, or what their drivers are. And then that allowed us to write really kind of compelling content for that organisation, but took a lot of the heavy lifting away from the talent acquisition team, who were incredibly busy. So that can be a really good option. Or if you find that you've got managers who are less likely to engage on doing a quick video call to go through that, if you've got a question set that's consistent and you can send it to them, they might prefer to just fill it in, but it gives the copywriter something to work with that is incredibly consistent in terms of the information they gather. And then obviously the role of a copywriter is to take, the overarching key messaging and then weave that into the role or team specific content that you want to cover. So I think there are kind of, to use your parlance, hacks to try and do that process quicker and take some of the pressure off the talent acquisition team, and go direct to the managers who have got generally a lot of the answers.
Yeah, that's really helpful. You just touched on something there as well. I think the importance of taking or gathering data through the recruitment process, and also with the people that have ended up accepting offers from you, will start to guide you very quickly as well about, what was it about the process? What is it about the organisation that sort of first captured their imagination? And those elements might be slightly different from those people who work within the business or the organisation for a period of time as well. So I think the importance of taking measurements in some way in the organisation, or people coming through or down the funnel, is really important in terms of identifying what is the essence that makes us different.
Yeah, and I think the whole the point of the messaging as well, in a lot of ways, is to help people, yes, self-select into the process, but also to self-select out, because there's 70 million people in this country, and you don't all want them to work for you in that particular role. You have to give them the information that allows them to think, yes, I can do this, and I'm a great cultural fit, and I really align with those values. And it's about trying to find the right people who are going to succeed and stay, and the messaging is a big part of that journey, as well as obviously then the metrics that follow through the application and recruitment process funnel.
Yeah, you're right. Because from a candidate perspective, if you don't have access to that information about the organisation, its culture, its values, or being able to see people that have also work with an organisation, what their experience is, then they've got no point of reference, and they can't inform themselves or deselect themselves in some way. Just very quickly, Claire, you very kindly put a question in. It's just disappeared. So if you want to ask that again, I think it was around actually the importance of constantly, how often do you need to update content on a career site, and what kind of program you should have behind that. So perhaps we'll come on to that question in a little while. There's also, I've got a question for both of you, really. So there's quite a lot of change in terms of job seeker behaviour. So it's very easy now for candidates to apply for roles via, let's say, job boards. You might do a Google search, but you might just be searching for a specific job. Then that will take you to Google, or it might invariably take you probably to Indeed or some other job board. And the candidates quite often are applying directly from that job board, with no exposure or visibility of perhaps the career site content that's been invested in and created. Is that something you come across quite a bit? And what kind of ideas have you got for pointing candidates back in the direction of that career site content, perhaps even after they've applied?
Yeah, there's a few things there, actually, Giles. One is, and this happened with Boohoo, actually, because of the integration method they have with LinkedIn and Indeed, means that in order to measure applications from those sources, they couldn't come to the listings on the career site. They had to go directly to the listings on that platform. So we ensured that we included a link to the career site in all the job listings, so that people had the opportunity to engage with that employer brand focused content. And that can be a simple link. It can be, multiple links that reference benefits or the learning and development and career development pathways, for example. So you've got that option. In terms of gaining visibility and getting people to apply by your career site, actually one of the important things is a Google for Jobs integration. So if you were to Google your company name jobs, it's quite likely, if you've already got an applicant tracking system, that the jobs appear within Google for Jobs. But also if your jobs are on Indeed or any of the aggregators, they'll probably appear there as well. If you do your Google for Jobs integration correctly, when you look at that job, there'll be an option to apply on all of those job boards that your role appears on, but there'll also be an option to apply on the company career site. And at that point, you kind of bring them into your environment. And for example, the career site we built with you with you guys for MAN, we've created this dynamic template. So when they come through to job listings, they can still interact with the rest of the content on the site. It's not kind of separate in the ATS. So there's ways of kind of trying to drive more traffic via your career site, even if actually, they do apply just from reading the job ad. And the last thing I'd say is, a lot of the work we do with clients, perhaps once their career site is set up, is actually looking at job ad toolkits. John's mentioned the fact you can have 3-5 different versions of the same advert, or you're reliant on a hiring manager to kind of put that together who's very time poor and it's maybe not their specialist area. We can create compelling paragraphs about the role, about all the different teams, interesting benefits paragraphs, what the rewards are going to be like, little outros that lead people on to apply. And then all really the TA people or the hiring managers are having to do is sort of insert list of bullet points in the middle about what this role specifically is. And it gives you that kind of level of consistency and also allows you to articulate a bit of that creative messaging, or if you have it, that employer brand. So those are a few things that come to mind.
The job ad toolkits are the gift that keeps on giving for some of our global clients where, or, even pan-European or national clients where stakeholder engagement is difficult, where, the mothership might be in the UK, but, when you talk to the people in Southern Europe or Asia Pac, they go, they don't understand us. We try and do our own thing. And job ad toolkit or social ad creator, this isn't a stick to beat you with people. This is a level of support you've never had before. And you develop a messaging matrix alongside it. So we say, look, we know hiring a grad in the Czech Republic is very different to hiring a grad in the UK, Paris or Berlin. So here's the specific messages that need to go into that particular bit of communication. Or hiring salespeople in the States is different to hiring salespeople in Asia Pac. So, this isn't about what we tell them. This is an engagement exercise. So that's how do we want them to feel. So when we see the messaging matrix, it looks like we've understood the prime motivators for their audience, and we're selling something on the outside that we can genuinely deliver on the inside. So, good. How we want people to feel is a phrase that crops up quite a lot in developing the matrices and the toolkits.
For sure. Got a question from Simon. Simon, thanks for your question. How would you draw traffic to the site and career site in the first instance? So how do you get people on the site?
I think there's a number of things that you can do. So there's some really basic things you can do, which are quite technical. So making sure you've got XML sitemaps and that you submit those to search engines. There's some free stuff you can do. So that integration with Google for Jobs and other free platforms such as Indeed. Like for some of our clients, like Pets at Home, we create custom XML feeds for Indeed so that they can get their jobs on there for their 2 different distinct brands around Pets at Home and the dog grooming business. There's other things you can do. Obviously, you might be using media for advertising. We can create advertising plans. We can create organic social plans so that you can promote your messages on your own channels. We can do programmatic and social media advertising. You can create a content plan for perhaps your talent blog on your career site, which you can then promote on things like LinkedIn and other social channels. You can use your employee referral scheme. So a lot of the work we do when we've done an employer brand career site, we also relaunch the employee referral so that we get people coming through that channel. ATSs like JobTrain will have a jobs by email function where you can, when there's no jobs returned for a specific search, you're encouraging repeat traffic who's already interested in working for your organization. So promoting that on the site is really important. And also one of the things that we do a lot of now is looking at kind of employee advocacy programs. The people who work for you are the people who are going to really sell working for your organization because they think it's great. So, we do run structured programs around finding advocates within your organization, training them, and then letting them run free really in terms of creating content, or we help them create content to then drive traffic back to the site. So there's lots and lots of different ways, some of which are paid for, as you'd imagine, but some of which are relatively low cost or no cost.
Absolutely, you're right about employee advocacy as well. So John laughing a little bit, but it's about giving employees the confidence and also probably a framework in which to operate. And that way you can ensure some control, or even actually just sometimes feeding them with the content, because ultimately your employees are living in the space and the potential pool of candidates that you want to reach. So it's a bit of a no-brainer really in terms of sort of using them to sort of supercharge your recruitment marketing out there in the ether, especially socially and that kind of thing.
Some of our advocates create their own content, and obviously different organisations have, different rules around how that's sense checked. Others, we have weekly calls with them and they tell us their ideas and they might need our help to write something, or it might be that they just need a bit of direction and then they go off and do it themselves. But, again, as John said, it's all about the more boring things like the planning. And then, once you've got a plan, you can execute it and really get some traction from it. But I think, as I said, there's lots of things to consider that are low cost and no cost, as well as the more paid for options as well.
Yeah,
I've got a stat for you, Charles. I know you love a stat. I love a stat. Brace yourself. Less than 15% of candidates believe what the C-suite say about a company and the employment experience. Less than 25% believe what HR and TA say about a company and the employment experience, but more than 66% believe what the existing employees say. So that's why Glassdoor and Indeed reviews are so important, because we know that if candidates see a negative review, they'll probably abort their job application. And it's why if we're selling something that's distinct, authentic, and compelling, to use the staff as our advocates and our ambassadors is so powerful. Not just to build reputation, but to get penetration into their network and their network's network to eke out passive job seekers and difficult, hard to fill roles. And do we let them run free? But maybe, but with their shoelaces tied together is probably the best way to describe it.
I mean, the fact is that each one of us, I think, have on average something like 400 connections on on a given social platform. And you're right. I had another stat, and I wish I brought it with me today. And it's about how much more engagement if you look at perhaps if you're using video within a job advert. If that job advert contains a video of the person they will be working for or the person they will be working with, rather than from HR, recruiter, C-suite, just drives a lot more engagement. The fact is, we've all got these, and these are really generate pretty high quality video. I've seen some amazing, I hasten to use the word, authentic, homemade. I saw a really great one, I've forgotten who it was with now, where they actually just went through the office and almost did a bit of a vox pop type thing with people saying, what do you enjoy most about working here? And it might have been specifically within the dev team or within the finance team. And then suddenly you start to generate some content relatively quickly. Yeah. So the options are out there. Just to move the conversation, we've got another question, so we'll just jump into that first before we crack on, have we? No. No, Simon, thank you. Right.
When we were doing the metrics on a couple of client career sites, we had the people, why do I come here every day, and what's different and special, and career pathing and rewards and benefits and purpose and structure, and it was pretty well staged and very slick and professional for those particular organisations, as you might imagine. But we also put the bloopers on, so the bit where they were being interviewed and got the giggles, or somebody walked in front of them, or they dropped something, or they forgot their words, or they couldn't get the words out. And we had more hits and better feedback on the bloopers and the giggles about, that's great, the mask has come off, that's the real you, that's the, I'd love to come and work with those people, they look great. So, that was useful knowledge for us to gain.
Cool. So if just move this on a little bit. So you're experts in delivering fully bespoke career sites, and you've got some beautiful examples out there. We could probably have a little walk through MAN if you wanted to share that and do a very quick walkthrough on that one. Some people, what about a quarter of the people on this chat today say that the perception is that cost is a barrier in order to delivering a career site. What should people consider when approaching or weighing up the benefits of a full-blown bespoke career site? What might they be budgeting for? How long might that process take? And then once it's launched, where's the responsibility lie in terms of keeping that content updated?
Okay, I've got one thing to say, and then I'll hand over to you, Fee, on cost and timescale, if that's okay. Just because it's
really hard questions to answer.
Just because we've had exactly the cost conversation with a client this week, and we don't know, we don't know quite where it's going to be. All singing, all dancing. We don't know whether it's going to be a silver Rolls Royce, a Volkswagen Golf that does 150,000 miles in style and comfort, or something, smaller and more practical. We haven't pitched that yet, but we were talking about the cost and the money. And when we looked at what we were trying to achieve in terms of cost per hire, cutting early attrition, building their employer reputation, and cutting their cost per hire, as well as cutting their time to hire to reduce requirement on temporary staff, we said, this isn't new money. You're actually spending this every day. You're spending significantly more than this every day. So that changed the conversation from a reorientation of spend as opposed to, oh my God, I've got to go and ask the finance director for X £1,000 and I don't know how to shape it. So the first bit about cost is you're probably already spending it or losing it. The second bit about how you then structure a budget, I'll pass over to you, Fee.
Yeah, and I guess going right back to the start of this conversation, Johnny, you were talking about actually doing the proper planning in advance. You probably already calculated the ROI, the expected ROI you get from investing in a career site.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about getting the right data. So, and it's changed a little bit. You know, for lots of clients, it used to just be about cost per hire and maybe trying to reduce agency spend. For others, you know, we recognise time to hire. Certainly in the last 3 months, success in role has become much more significant. So, particularly in consulting roles or, you know, where in clinical roles where what used to happen, it maybe took people 6 months to get up to speed and get the tills ringing at the same level as the people who've been there for a while. But for those either clinical roles or consulting roles, we needed people to get the tills ringing and to be at a level of the existing workforce, literally within 6 weeks in one case or within 3 months in another. So you can then define what that adds to the bottom line and therefore the ROI. So yeah, cost per hire, time to hire, cutting early attrition.
Fee, just before we go over to you, where did the stats regarding 15% of candidates believe the CEO, 25% believe HRTA, and 66% believe existing employees come from, please? And what's the source?
I'll off the top of my head, Michelle, I can't remember, but I've got it written down and I will send it through to you.
Brill. Fee, over to you.
What was the specific question, Giles? Sorry.
Oh, we went off piece, didn't we? It was all about pricing, investment, and ultimately the cost around career sites.
Yeah, I think it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. You know, as we mentioned earlier on, the kind of scoping stage is really important. And those early conversations around what are you trying to achieve? You know, what kind of impact could this have? Because, you know, that would be different whether you're spending 20 grand a year on recruitment versus 100 grand versus £1 million, right? You know, as John said, certainly at the middle and higher levels, you're probably already spending this money. It's just you'd be redirecting it to something where you may actually get higher quality candidates or more engaged candidates, maybe less candidates, but better candidates. You know, there's lots of different things that you might want to focus on. So, you know, if you know that you don't have much budget, then, you know, and I know you're going to talk about this later, you know, an ATS's career site builder could help where you were just kind of starting out on your journey. You don't have too much at the moment. You know, you want to maybe put some cultural messaging on there, some values messaging, maybe focus on some teams, but you're short on time and you have lower budget. It's a great place to start. Lots of the organizations we speak to don't have a budget. You know, we have to help them build a business case. And that really comes from those initial and early conversations about what they want to achieve and the impact that a solution like this could have. And then we can help them build a business case so they can take it to the business and get it.
So that's something you will actually support people with in terms of building a business case. I know we do that with some of our prospective customers that are coming through with Job Train. Not everybody does, but I think it's important to give people that confidence in terms of going and asking, requesting, or proving why the budget should be released.
Yeah, that happens all the time. And, you know, there's obviously lots of things which are consistent across that business case, but there are lots of things that are very bespoke to that organization and what they're trying to achieve. You know, and you can have a career site that's all singing, all dancing with all the bells and whistles, but it might be that for what you need right now, you need something in the middle, or you might just need something to start with while you're building that middle or building the business case for that middle or that larger investment. So, you know, we're always really happy to have a conversation with people and understand what their specific challenges are, what they're trying to achieve, and just give some best advice. We're always more than happy to do that. So if anyone who's on here is in that space where they don't quite know where to start, then we'd be very happy to have a chat with you.
Brilliant. And we'll, as I say, John, perhaps you could put yours and Fee's LinkedIn profiles in the chat here, because we're going to go on to a little bit here. So sometimes it's just important to be able to get started with something, and that can feel quite overwhelming. And that's one of the problems that we've sought to try and address with the Job Train. So we've actually now launched our own career site builder within our own platform, just to help our customers just to get started with basically creating content, having some content available for candidates online. And I was going to do a bit of a demo myself, but we've got expertise within house. So I'm just going to ask Neil just to come online and then just give us a bit of a walkthrough and a bit of an introduction to what a typical ATS career site builder say that. I'll say that actually. No, I disagree with that. I think ours is brilliant. So I'll let Neil just give you a little bit of a walkthrough on it, just so you can see what it looks like, how it works and that kind of stuff. So Neil, are you there?
Hi, Giles. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I have. I've brought Alex to the front of the stage. I'm going to, by accident, you see the wonders of modern technology now, so I'm going to bring Neil in. I think I'm a little bit laggy here, so just hold on, Neil. I think I've got you there. Brilliant. There you are. So Neil works within our sales team, but is also a bit of an expert when it comes to our own career site builder, which is something we launched towards the end of last year, Neil.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And I'd probably use it at least once or twice a week, I'd say, definitely.
So Neil, have you got all the controls there? Can you see where to share the site and all the rest of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you look to the bottom right hand side, you can probably see your face and it will say share something.
How's that? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. It's quite small, but yeah, we can see it. So I'm going to put a spotlight onto what you're sharing, hopefully. There we go. Great. Sure. All yours, Neil.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to take you through a really kind of quick high-level demonstration of some of the things that are possible with JobTrain's Brand Builder when it comes to maintaining and editing your brand online. So some of you might be familiar with JobTrain, and this is the client-side homepage of JobTrain. And if we come through to our settings here, we can access Brand Builder, which, as Giles said, is a relatively new bit of functionality that allows our clients to manage that careers content themselves without the need to come to us for any kind of change request. They can just nip into Brand Builder here. And you can see I've got this career site. This is just a demo one branded with some of JobTrain's logos and colors in this case. You can see this is what the career site might look like. And you can see we've got our Brand Builder here, which sort of mirrors exactly what's on the screen there. Just worth saying, I can't see you while I'm sharing my screen. So Giles or anyone else, if you've got any questions, please just shout out.
I'll let you know if any come through.
Please do. Thank you. So as you can see here, we've got a sort of, like I said, a mirror of our career site. We can take a number of actions here, and these will be reflected in real time to our career site. So if I go to our brand settings to start off with here, you can see that we can pop in a new logo. We can do things like edit our URLs or our links to our homepage. We can edit our primary and secondary colors. We can do this with hex, or we can do this with RGB. And it'd be a case of just popping in the numbers, or even just clicking and dragging around there. And we can save that, and you can see that's reflected sort of immediately. We can define our font, even the shape of our sort of buttons on here. And if we save that, that will be reflected in our career site here. It's a very subtle change in the shade of blue. I'm not sure that that's going to be immediately obvious to everyone. Within Brand Builder, you can build out up to 10 pages of content, and you can populate that with all different sorts of content. So you can see we've got video content in here, calls to action, and if I just click the plus here, I get all my nice options for what formats of media and content I can pop in here. So we can pop in a gallery of images, for example, and I just need to populate all of those. We can pop in, testimonials. If I go through some of our pages in our career site, we've got sections on, in this case, why work for us, giving a little bit of a sense of that company values and what it's like on a day-to-day basis. As Fiona mentioned, company benefits as well. We can pop that in here. We might want to have testimonials, I think were mentioned as well. So I think, there he is. There's Giles.
Oh, yeah.
How wonderful it is to work at JobTrain. Or we may want to have a sort of join our talent pool or talent network for sort of speculative applications. And all of that can be edited from within the Brand Builder here. So you can see we can change our images, we can change our layout, we can add in all sorts of different content there. And I hope that sort of gives a very, very high level, very quick overview of sort of what's possible within the system here.
It is. That's absolutely brilliant. Neil, thank you so much for just giving us a quick walkthrough. And I think, yeah, it's a little bit of shameless self-promotion from JobTrain there. But I'm just going to bring us back in a little bit. So hopefully bring me back in and bring our guest back in. Whoops, there I am. Let's find John, bring you back to John, and you also, Fee, as well. Yeah, it's a little bit of shameless self-promotion on our part, but I also wanted to really show that the tools are out there and the frameworks are out there just to get started. It doesn't need to be too complicated. And actually within our career site builder, we've got sort of some library images and that kind of stuff. So it's really easy just to get images started to upload and include videos. Is a really straightforward process. You just simply want to take the video, upload it onto Vimeo or YouTube, which is a really simple process, and then include the links and that kind of thing. And it's so easy to keep the content fresh and keep it updated as well, or even have something as simple as just a landing page. If there's specific roles like carers looking to recruit for, just get some content on there, have a join our talent network clear, call to action on there, so you can start to bring people into your funnel and that kind of stuff. So it's just designed just to give you an idea about exactly how that works. And if you just want to get started, but you're thinking, actually, even with those tools that are available within JobTrain, we're not quite sure how to get started. DNA are on offer to help support with that. They have also spent time with our career site builder. They understand how it works, and they'll be able to give you advice on how to get that started. So if you've got any questions about that, then by all means, get in touch with me, get in touch with Fee or John or anything like that.
Yeah, because we can work with you on, planning out what those 10 pages could be. We can also help you create that content. We can help you create videos. We can help you, you can obviously use the imagery that's in the platform. We can source or create imagery for you. So there's lots of ways in which we can help them. And as Giles said, we've been given a bit of a free rein to have a prowl around it. So we can set it all up for you as well and give it to you to review. So lots of ways in which we can help if that's the way you need to go.
Prowl, I like that. So before we're getting towards the end of this session, I did say I was keen to make this as interactive as possible, and I'm really grateful for the questions that have come through so far. But does anybody else here have any questions? You'll notice that actually, if you hover over your name, if you're an attendee here, you can actually choose to either put your hand up or even join the stage if you want to, because you actually come up and ask us to answer any questions you might have. So does anybody here have any other burning questions that they want answering today? It'll all be quiet for a little bit here, and sometimes it's I think you had some we got an apology from Ken here to say he's got to duck out for another meeting, but it was really interesting, really helpful, so that's good to know. John,
it will be quite interesting to know if over half of people are saying that content is the main barrier to launching a career site. Is it that they don't know what they don't know what it is, so therefore they don't want to go and put something in the outside board that may not be appropriate or relevant? Is it getting stakeholder engagement, or is it that they've got the first two, they know what the story should be, or they've got a feeling it should be pending any sort of validation, and they've got the stakeholder engagement, they just don't have the bandwidth to do it. So that will be interesting to know. And I guess, us and other agencies, this is what we do for a living, and we do it all the time, every time. So if you're taking your sort of baby steps to develop some sort of career site content, then I guess you want a reliable guy who does it all the time, who's empathetic to the fact that you're doing it for the first time and need to keep those stakeholders engaged. So it'd be interesting to know within that content barrier which of those three it might be.
Yeah, I've got a question actually. So there's I think sometimes it's hard for recruiters today because we're being asked to wear so many different hats. Suddenly we've got to be, great people. We've got to network. We've got to be salespeople. We're expected to be able to understand and interpret data and analytics. We've got to almost like manage up in terms of engaging with C-suite in order to improve the value of talent acquisition and recruitment, and the fact it is a strategic function, not just a cost center. And then now we're all being asked to be marketeers as well in terms of generating content, whether it's career site content or social media and that kind of thing. So a lot of people probably won't potentially have the confidence to do it because they may have a marketing team. Is it important, my bit contentious here, is it important to engage with your internal marketing team? And if so, how best should people go about it?
In
terms of getting permission, because some people might say it's easy to ask for forgiveness and permission, but actually there's always that danger you might get into trouble.
I know when we did the EVP and employer brand session sometime last year, whenever it was, one of the cries for help was, we've got an internal marketing department who are so precious about the brand, they won't let anybody else do anything with it. And as an HRTA person in the business, I'm always at the back of the queue so nothing happens. Help. I guess, the reality is, but by using a sort of third-party expert, whether it's us or another agency, we, when you look at the brands that we deal with, everything we do in the talent space reinforces the corporate brand. It never dilutes it, never runs against it. So everything we do supports it. The other key thing is don't judge us or anybody else by what we say. Judge us by what we do. And if we're working for people like Superdry, MAN, Vistry Group, All Saints, Boohoo, I mean, you don't get many more brand brand possessive or brand precious or brand driven organizations than that. So if they're allowing the HR and TA folk to use a partner such as us, then they're probably okay. Whoever they are, wherever they are, they're probably okay and safe in our hands. So it's about a reassurance thing. Often, no names, no pack drill, but there's one organisation who we did a fantastic career site for and employer brand and everything else. And the marketing and the HR teams didn't talk to each other because HR had been continually trashing the brand. And relationships had entirely broken down. We managed to be the bridge between them to do the things that we needed to do, which was cut cost per hire and cut early attrition. So they sort of looked in our eyes and trusted us. That's.
And I guess going back again before, if you've done your planning work in terms of proving the ROI or the importance of content generation, having career site content, then that would and should have been pitched at C-level anyway. So it's probably a little bit easier for them to communicate that down, perhaps through marketing, and then get marketing to engage in a positive fashion with you or with the recruitment team.
That bit in the discovery where you're engaging stakeholders, and that's not just giving all employees, whoever they are, wherever they are, a voice to contribute, whether it's in focus groups or an online survey or something, but you want the stakeholders to contribute. So I mentioned some of those global clients. I can think of one. They've only got 20 people in the States, but to have those stakeholders inside with a voice as part of the project guaranteed the success. And we've got one global brand and one global career site. If we hadn't engaged them, it would have been not invented here, or you can't, good luck with that, everybody else across the rest of the world. But what we do over here is this. So I think that stakeholder engagement bit, whether it's the internal marketing department, whether it's external sales, whether it's procurement, whether it's operations, to navigate your way around those key stakeholders, whatever size of the organisation, is really important. Because if it's going to stall in 6 weeks' time or in 3 months' time, it's because we haven't engaged the stakeholders right or set the right objectives.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I think that probably brings us towards the end of today's session. I hope everybody here's got lots of value from it. Huge thanks to you, Fee, and you, John, for sharing all your words and wisdom and advice and tips and that kind of stuff, and hoping to give people a bit more confidence to understand the value of it, understand how to plan it, a bit more confidence about creating content, and then just literally just getting started. So thank you very much. We will write a blog on the back of this. This session will be posted onto our channel online, so it'll be available for anybody that wants to watch it back. Very kindly, we've got your LinkedIn details within the chat. So if anybody has some questions offline you want to ask, then please do go ahead. I will be back on the 15th of March at 10 a.m, slightly earlier start, for our next session, which is a care-specific webinar. To be fair, we will be discussing all things to do with care because there's a very specific challenge and a pinch point around care recruitment right now. But to be fair, there will be some really, really good, helpful hints and tips around improving the quality of candidates in the funnel, improving retention, speeding up the onboarding and compliance process. So I'm going to be joined by Neil Eastwood, who is a bit of a care industry guru, and also the Chief Executive of Care Friends, and Ursula Jays, who has an awful lot of experience in leading recruitment and TA teams within care as well. So that should be a really good session. So thank you everybody for joining. I hope you have a really good rest of the week, and hopefully you will join us for another session soon. Thank you so much. Thanks, John. Thanks, Lee.
Bye.
Bye.